Mara Vale learned what her brothers thought her life was worth in front of 400 witnesses. The treaty courtyard of Vale Keep had been swept clean before dawn. Warriors lined the walls beneath faded banners. Elders stood near the raised platform. Merchants, servants, farmers, and children crowded the lower yard, all summoned to witness the end of the border dispute with the Northern Crown. Mara had believed she was there because she was the late Alpha's firstborn daughter. Then Gideon began reading The Price of Peace. Vale will surrender the southern grazing lands from Blackwater Ridge to the old Mill Road, her eldest brother announced. 30 bars of silver will be delivered before first snow, and as pledge of our submission, Mara Vale will pass into the custody of Alpha King Ronan Calder. For one second, Mara thought she had misunderstood him. The silence told her she had not. Gideon looked down from the platform, calm in the dark coat that had once belonged to their father. Beside him, Silas smiled. The Calder envoy, a broad-shouldered man with iron-grey hair, turned sharply. My king requested territory and restitution. He did not request your sister. Gideon's mouth barely moved. Then consider her interest on the debt. A murmur passed through the courtyard. Gideon lifted the parchment again. Mara Vale, wolfless daughter of the former Alpha, shall serve as pledge, hostage, bride, or property according to King Calder's choosing. Someone whispered, wolfless. Mara felt every face turn toward her. She had carried medicine to their sick children, altered grain accounts so widows received more than Gideon allowed, and spent winter nights copying pack laws. Now people who had once called her Lady Mara stared at the ground. You cannot do this. Silas laughed. Mara ignored him. Vale's succession law forbids an Alpha from transferring custody of a firstborn blood heir without witnessed council consent. 3 elders stepped from the crowd. Mara stopped breathing. Men who had eaten at her father's table climbed the platform and placed their seals on the treaty. Gideon watched her. Council consent has been witnessed. The humiliation changed shape. Her brothers had not acted alone. This had been prepared. You bought them, Mara said. One elder looked away. Gideon descended the steps and unclasped the bronze and black veil brooch from Mara's shoulder. Their father had pinned it there on her 16th birthday. You no longer speak for this house. Silas seized her wrist and tied a white treaty ribbon around it. Mara jerked back. Don't touch me. He tightened the knot. A treaty marker. A thing transferred from one hand to another. The entire courtyard watched. Mara forced herself not to cry. A woman near the well pulled her daughter closer. One of Mara's childhood friends stared at the stones. No one protested. That silence cut deeper than Silas's grip. Gideon had not merely sold her. He had forced the pack to watch him strip away her name and taught them that stopping him would cost more than looking away. Silas's gaze dropped to the brass key pendant at her throat. That stays here. He reached for it. Mara struck his hand away. The slap cracked across the courtyard. Gasps rose. Silas lunged, but the Calder envoy stepped between them. The treaty names the woman, he said. Not the contents of her pockets. This is a Vale matter. Silas snapped. Not once you made her part of crown restitution. Mara closed one hand around the key. Her mother, Elena, had given it to her when Mara was 8 and made her promise never to lose it. Mara had once asked what it opened. Helena had answered only, someday, I hope nothing. By noon, Mara was riding north beneath Calder escort. No chains bound her. That almost made it worse. The white ribbon still circled her wrist. Vale Keep vanished behind the pines, and neither brother came to watch her leave. The envoy introduced himself as Commander Alaric Thorn. When the road narrowed through the forest, he finally spoke. King Calder will be angry. Mara stared ahead. Because I am not worth what Gideon promised. Alaric's jaw tightened. Because he does not buy women. That should have comforted her. It did not. Everyone knew Ronan Calder, the Black Wolf King. He had crushed the Northern Rebellion before 30. 3 rival alphas had died challenging him. He had refused every political bride offered to him and never publicly named a mate. By dusk, Calder Keep rose from the mountain like a wall of black stone. Mara had been sold to a man who had never asked for her. She did not know whether that made her safer or simply easier to discard. Ronan Calder received them in the great hall before Mara had removed her travel cloak. He was taller than she expected, dark-haired and broad-shouldered, dressed in black and silver. A thin scar crossed one cheekbone. His steel-grey eyes went first to Alaric. What did Gideon Vale send? Alaric's expression hardened. His sister. Ronan went utterly still. Then anger sharpened his face. I asked for land, so I reminded him. Ronan looked at Mara. Not hungrily, not with satisfaction, with disbelief. You are Mara Vale? She lifted her chin. Apparently, I am whatever my brother wrote on the treaty. His eyes darkened. No. The word struck the hall like a dropped blade. You are not payment. You are not a hostage. And you are not staying here because your brother decided to dispose of you. Mara almost laughed. Men with power always sounded most convincing when explaining why their control was different. Then Ronan's gaze dropped. Not to her body, to the brass key at her throat. Every trace of anger vanished. For the first time, the Alpha King looked afraid. Where did you get that? Mara's fingers closed around the pendant. My mother. Ronan took one step toward her, then stopped. His voice was barely above a whisper. Whatever happens tonight, don't open the red door. Mara forgot how to breathe. No one knew about the red door. No one knew about the flooded corridor, the 7 bells, or the voice that had followed her through the same nightmare since childhood. She had never told anyone, not even her mother. Mara stared at Ronan Calder, as if the floor beneath her had shifted. What did you say? The Alpha King did not repeat himself. His gaze remained fixed on the brass key at her throat, and the men around him seemed uncertain. Ronan looked toward Commander Alaric. Clear the room. My king. Now. No one argued. Guards and attendants filed out beneath the stone arches until only Mara, Ronan, Alaric, and an elderly woman in a healer's robe remained. The doors shut behind them. Mara tightened her hand around the pendant. How do you know about the red door? Ronan's jaw flexed. Instead of answering, he asked, How many bells? A cold pressure closed around Mara's ribs. 7. Something in his face broke. Recognition. Ronan turned away and dragged a hand over his mouth. Gods. Mara took one step back. Answer me. He faced her again. I've dreamed of that door for nearly 15 years. The words were so impossible that anger was easier than belief. You expect me to accept that? No. I expect you to question everything I say. Mara almost hated him for giving the right answer. Ronan gestured toward a table near the hearth, but did not approach her. In my dreams, I'm standing in a stone corridor with water over my boots. There is a red door at the end. I hear 7 bells. Someone is on the other side. Mara could hear her heart beat. Oh, girl. I never saw her face. Her fingers went numb around the key. What did she do? She cried sometimes. Sometimes she screamed. Mostly she tried to open the door. Mara swallowed. And you? I tried to reach her. She had spent years waking from that nightmare, certain someone had been pounding from the other side. She had convinced herself it was only part of the dream. Ronan stepped closer before stopping several feet away. There was always a key near the door, he said. Brass. Old. The same shape as yours. Mara looked down at the pendant. Her mother's words surfaced again. Someday, I hope nothing. Before she could ask more, a sharp scent reached her pine. Cold stone, something darker beneath it. Heat moved under her skin. A pulse answered low in her chest, strange and instinctive. Ronan froze. His pupils widened. For 1 second, the room felt too small. Then, A low growl vibrated from deep in him. Mate. Mara's stomach dropped. Alaric lowered his eyes. The healer went still. Mara laughed once, without humor. Of course. Ronan's expression shifted. Mara, my brothers sell me in front of half the pack, and before the day is over, another man decides fate has handed me to him. That is not what I said. You said mate. My wolf did. And I am supposed to care about the distinction? Ronan went silent. Mara pulled the white treaty ribbon from her wrist and let it fall between them. My brothers called me property this morning, so forgive me if another powerful man telling me I belong to him does not sound romantic. A muscle moved in Ronan's cheek. You do not belong to me. His answer should have reassured her, but the instinct in his posture told another story. Ronan was holding himself back with visible effort, as though every part of him wanted to move closer, and only discipline kept him where he stood. What happens if your wolf wants something I refuse? Mara asked. Ronan's eyes sharpened. Then you refuse, and if you think I'm in danger, a beat passed too long. I protect what is under my roof. There it was. Not a threat, not yet, but a belief she recognized. Protection spoken in the language of authority. Mara studied him, searching for the trap. Ronan opened the doors himself. Bring the court back in. Within minutes, witnesses filled the great hall. Ronan walked to the center and did not sit on his throne. Let this be understood, he said. Mara Vale was not requested as payment by the Northern Crown. She is not my hostage, my servant, or property transferred under treaty. Whispers rippled through the hall. She will be given private rooms, her own key, access to the healer, and the freedom to refuse anyone who approaches her. His gaze returned to Mara. No one touches her without permission. That includes me. For the first time that day, Mara had no answer ready. The declaration should have eased her. Instead, it made her wary in a different way. Cruel men were easy to understand. Kindness from powerful men could carry a price that revealed itself later. The elderly healer approached. My name is Hester Rowan, she said. May I examine you? Mara noticed the question. She nodded. Hester inspected the bruising on her wrist, the discoloration beneath her eyes, the faint tremor in her hands. How long have you been weak after exertion? Most of my life. Have you ever shifted? No. May I take a drop of blood? Mara hesitated, then held out her hand. Hester pricked her fingertip with a silver needle and let one dark red drop fall onto a polished testing plate. For half a second, nothing happened. Then black veins raced outward through the blood. Hester's face went pale. Ronan moved forward. What is it? The healer stared at Mara. This girl isn't wolfless. Mara's breath caught. Hester lifted the plate. Someone has been suppressing her wolf for years. Mara looked at the black-veined blood on the silver plate until the edges of the room blurred. Suppressing? She asked. With what? Hester set the plate beneath a brighter lamp. I don't know yet. But this reaction is not natural weakness. Something has been interfering with your wolf for a very long time. Ronan's expression hardened. Can you identify it? With more blood, perhaps? And time. Mara barely heard them. For 23 years, every failed training session, every fever, every whispered insult had rested on the same certainty. There was nothing inside her. No wolf, no alpha spark. Nothing worth waiting for. Now an old healer was telling her that certainty might have been manufactured. Who knew? Ronan asked. Mara turned on him. Do not start deciding who is guilty before I understand what happened to me. The rebuke landed. Ronan's shoulders went rigid, but he stopped. Hester cleaned Mara's fingertip and left to prepare further tests. Alaric followed at Ronan's order, leaving the two of them alone near the hearth. Mara touched the brass key. The dreams, she said. Tell me everything. Ronan did not move closer. They began when I was 16. Always the same corridor. Stone walls. Water over my boots. The red door at the end. Was there light? A narrow strip beneath the door. Mara's pulse quickened. Red? No. White. She had seen it too. Ronan continued. The bells never rang together. One at a time. By the 7th, the girl on the other side would go silent. Mara closed her eyes. In her dreams, the 7th bell had always been the worst. Not because of the sound, but because everything inside her disappeared afterward. Fear, pain, even the sense that someone was waiting beyond the door. What did I say? His gaze sharpened at the word. You're assuming it was you. So are you. A pause. Sometimes you cried, Ronan said. Once you said, find the key. Mostly I heard you trying the handle. Mara stared at the pendant. I never remember saying that. I never saw the key in your hand. It was always on the floor outside the door. Her mother had given it to Mara when she was 8. The same year the nightmares had begun. A chill moved over her skin. When did you first see the door? Ronan asked. After my 8th birthday. Ronan's face tightened. That matches. Mara hated how easily the impossible was beginning to form a pattern. She sat near the fire, not because she trusted him, but because her knees had begun to shake. Ronan remained standing until she gestured toward the chair opposite. You said you searched for me. For years. How? I sent people after stories that sounded similar. Girls with recurring sleepwalking, unexplained magical illness, red door symbols, missing daughters from old bloodlines. And you found nothing? Nothing that lasted under scrutiny. Mara studied him. You spent 15 years looking for someone you weren't even sure existed? Ronan looked into the flames. Eventually I stopped being sure of everything except that you were afraid. The answer slipped past her defenses more easily than she wanted. Mara looked away. There was medicine, she said. Ronan's attention snapped back. A tonic. Bitter enough that I used to hold my nose to swallow it. I was given it every night for as long as I can remember. By whom? Servants, usually. On Gideon's orders after father died. Before that, her mother had supervised the tonic because she had believed it was ordinary medicine. The memory came slowly, dragged up by the smell of smoke and herbs from Hester's workroom. One winter, when I was 14, I stopped taking it. Ronan said nothing. For 3 nights, maybe 4. I poured it into the ashes after everyone left. She remembered waking before dawn, with her entire body burning. Hearing footsteps 2 floors below, smelling snow through a shuttered window, seeing silver flash in her own eyes in the mirror. I heard something inside my head, Mara whispered. A voice. Not words. More like someone waking up. Your wolf, maybe. At the winter solstice feast, she had nearly collapsed. A serving tray had slipped from her hands, and claw marks had appeared in the oak table beneath her fingers. Gideon found out. What happened? The dose changed. She could still taste it. After solstice, they made me drink it twice a day, morning and night. I was sick for nearly a week. Ronan's jaw tightened. My mother fought with Gideon about it. Mara continued. I heard her through the study door. What did she say? Mara searched the memory. Twice a day will destroy her. Those were her exact words. And Gideon? I couldn't hear him. A few months later, Elena Vale died after being thrown from her horse on a road she had ridden hundreds of times. Mara had never connected the 2 events. Until now. Hester returned carrying a shallow stone bowl etched with old symbols. I need the pendant. Mara's hand closed around it. Hester stopped immediately. Only if you consent. After a moment, Mara removed the chain herself and placed it in the bowl. Nothing happened. Hester frowned. Your blood. Mara offered the same finger. 1 drop struck the brass. 7 tiny marks flared along the shaft of the key. Ronan inhaled sharply. Hester went very still. What? Mara asked. The healer looked up. This isn't jewelry. The 7th mark burned brighter than the others. It's an oath key. Hester did not touch the key again. She leaned over the stone bowl, studying the 7 marks burning along the brass shaft. I have seen this pattern once before, she said, in a condemned oath manual. Ronan's expression sharpened. What kind? The kind the Northern Council banned 2 generations ago. Hester returned with a narrow leather volume whose spine had nearly rotted away. Several pages had been cut out, but one surviving diagram showed 7 interlocking circles around the outline of a door. It was called the Red Threshold, Hester said, a ritual designed to imprison a wolf spirit without killing it. Each seal suppresses a different part of the bond between human and wolf. She touched the circles one by one. Scent, healing, shift instinct, alpha aura, wolf communication, blood memory, full manifestation. 7 seals, Mara said. 7 bells, Ronan answered. Hester nodded. Your dreams are likely translating the structure into something your minds can survive. Mince? Hester looked at the oath key. A counter-sigil like this can keep one narrow channel open through a soul bond. The threshold cannot fully sever. Ronan went still. The mate bond, the latent bond, Hester said. It can exist long before recognition or claiming. If it was already there when the threshold was completed, your mother may have used it as a distress channel. Mara looked at him. So we were not having similar dreams? No, Hester said. You were entering the same psychic prison from opposite sides. You were trapped inside. Ronan's bond was reaching it from outside. That explained the pounding beyond the door, why Ronan had seen the key but never her face. The threshold blocked manifestation and identity, while the oath key kept one connection alive. My mother made him hear me. She made sure someone could. Mara looked at the key. Then why warn me not to use it? Because opening the threshold too early could kill you. Hester continued. Your body has adapted to years of suppression. If all 7 seals failed while the suppressant was still concentrated in your blood, your wolf could return faster than your heart, nerves, and mind could withstand. You might shift once and never come back. So my mother wasn't keeping me trapped. No. She may have been keeping you alive until you were strong enough to survive being free. For years, Elena's warning had sounded like another command. Now, it sounded like fear. Hester turned several damaged pages. In one margin was a symbol resembling a broken chain. Threshold magic was rarely used on ordinary wolves. It was developed for bloodlines considered dangerous to coercive oath systems. Which bloodline? Ronan asked. The Unbound. The surviving text was sparse. Unbound wolves could resist forced alpha command, recognize supernatural bonds created without true consent, and break coercive oaths under strict conditions. Not every oath? Mara asked. No, voluntary loyalty remains voluntary. Hester tapped the broken chain symbol. Several forced bonds can be broken together only when they share the same magical anchor. Otherwise, each bond must be identified and broken directly, one at a time, with the bound person close enough for the unbound to reach the oath. So, I could not walk into a pack and strip away every allegiance. No. Ronan said nothing. Mara noticed. You look concerned. I am. Because you may not be able to command me? His gaze met hers. Because I don't know what waking this bloodline will do to you. It was a careful answer. Mara suspected it was incomplete. By afternoon, she had taken over a long table in the archive chamber. If her childhood had been engineered, she wanted dates, not theories. Ronan brought Crown trade ledgers. Hester brought pharmacy records recovered from old Vale shipments. Mara matched them against what she remembered from her father's accounts. While Thomas Vale had lived, the tonic shipments had been small and irregular. After his death and Gideon's assumption of the Alpha title, the deliveries became regular monthly orders. Then Mara found the winter she was 14. A damaged apothecary entry showed the same compound code and destination, but nearly twice the volume beginning immediately after winter solstice. The tonic doubled. Ronan came beside the table, and the records changed after Gideon took control. Mara said. Not enough to prove he ordered it, but the regimen became systematic under him. The authorization column that could have named the person responsible had been torn away. It's evidence, Ronan said, of a pattern, not guilt. A knock interrupted them. Alaric entered and handed Mara a folded strip of paper. This came through a Vale trader. He asks that it reach you directly. Ronan did not take it. Mara broke the seal herself. Lady Mara, I kept what your father ordered me to keep. If you mean to challenge Gideon, come before he learns I still have it. Captain Eamon Hale. Mara read the name twice. Eamon had commanded her father's household guard until Gideon stripped him of rank and sent him to a remote border post. The trader carried a verbal message, Alaric said. Hale claims he has the original succession ledger, records of payments to council members, and the pharmacy authorization pages. Mara stood. Where? Near the eastern Vale boundary. He can remain hidden for no more than 2 days. 48 hours. For the first time since arriving at Calder Keep, Mara saw a path back that did not require Ronan's army or anyone believing her, because she was his mate. I'm going. Ronan's head turned. Hester spoke first. Mara, there is a problem. She held up the newest blood vial. The black residue had thinned dramatically. The suppressant is leaving your system faster than I expected. Mara waited. Your first shift has already begun. Across the table, Ronan went very still. For the first time since Mara had met him, the fear in his eyes looked stronger than his judgment. Mara did not sleep. By dawn, the muscles along her spine were cramping hard enough to make her grip the edge of the washstand. Her hearing sharpened and dulled without warning. Twice she caught scents from the corridor beyond her locked chamber door wax. Steel, wet wool so clearly that she could tell which guard had passed first. Hester called it the beginning of manifestation. Mara called it inconvenient. Eamon had 48 hours. She spread a map across Ronan's council table before breakfast. The eastern boundary has an abandoned shepherd road here. I can reach the old quarry before nightfall if I leave within the hour. Ronan stood on the opposite side of the table, his expression already closed. No. Mara looked up. That was not a request. Hester says your first shift could happen at any time. Hester also says I am not dying. She said you could lose control. Then I lose control on the road. Not in this castle while Gideon burns the only proof I have. Ronan's jaw tightened. You do not know whether the message is genuine. I know Eamon's handwriting. You have not seen him in years. I also know the route. Gideon does not patrol the quarry because the bridge washed out 2 winters ago. Eamon chose it because he knows Vale patrol patterns. Ronan glanced at the map. Mara could see him calculating distances, risks, ambush points. That was what made him dangerous. He did not dismiss her plan because he was stupid. He understood it, and still believed his judgment should outrank hers. I can send Alaric with 20 men, he said. No soldiers. Mara, the moment Calder uniforms cross that boundary, Gideon will know someone inside Vale is helping me. My men can secure Hale before Gideon reacts. You do not know Gideon, and you do not know what your body is about to do. The room went still. Mara folded her arms. It is my body. Ronan's eyes flashed. And if you shift in the middle of Vale territory surrounded by men who would rather see you dead, then that is my risk, not while you are under my protection. The words struck harder than they should have. Mara stared at him. Ronan seemed to hear himself a second too late. Under your protection, she repeated. I did not mean. Yes, you did. Hester, standing near the window, said quietly. Her pulse is elevated, but she is stable enough to travel if she rests frequently. Ronan turned on her. You would allow this? I would advise against it. That is not the same as deciding for her. Mara saw the answer land and watched Ronan reject it anyway. He straightened. Comment dire? Alaric stepped forward. Ronan's voice changed. It carried the cold finality of the Alpha King. Invoke Crown's safeguard. Mara felt the room contract. Alaric hesitated. My king. You heard me. What is Crown Safeguard? Mara asked. No one answered quickly enough. She knew before Ronan explained. Emergency protective custody, he said, until the immediate threat to your life has passed. Mara laughed once, without humor. Custody. You will remain inside Calder Keep. No. Your correspondence will be screened, and the outer gates will remain closed to you until Hester clears you for travel. You cannot be serious. I am sending men for Aemon. Mara crossed the distance between them. Do not. I can get him here safely. You can get him killed. My scouts know how to move unseen. Your scouts do. 20 armed Calder soldiers do not. I am not sending 20. Then, how many? Ronan did not answer. That silence told her the order had already become logistics in his head. Routes, escorts, time-nettables. He had stopped listening. Mara planted both palms on the table. Aemon survived 5 years under Gideon because no one knew where his loyalty was. The second your men appear near him, that ends. I will not let you gamble your life, and I will not let you gamble his. Ronan's face hardened. For one terrible second, Mara saw not Gideon, but the same certainty behind a different pair of eyes. I know better. I decide. You will understand later. Ronan turned to Alaric. Send 6. Plain cloaks, no banners. Bring Hale and whatever records he carries directly here. Ronan. He did not look at her. Now. Alaric bowed and left. Mara stood very still. You promised no one here would treat me as property. I am trying to keep you alive by locking me in, temporarily. Every cage is temporary to the person holding the key. Ronan flinched, but he did not revoke the order. That hurt more than if he had shouted. Mara walked out. 2 guards stood at the end of the corridor. By noon, she tested the order herself. She dressed for travel, fastened her mother's brass key beneath her shirt, and walked toward the western gate. Hester followed at a distance, saying nothing. The guards lowered their spears. Lady Mara, one said, miserable. We have orders. Move. We cannot. Mara looked beyond them at the open road. She was free enough to choose her meals, free enough to refuse Ronan's touch, free enough to sleep behind a locked door, but not free enough to leave. The distinction suddenly felt very small. By sunset, the strange pressure beneath her skin had become a second heartbeat. Her wolf pressed at the edges of her mind, restless and furious. Ronan came to her chamber once. Mara did not open the door. Night fell. Then the alarm bell rang in the lower courtyard. Mara was halfway down the stairs before a mud-covered rider stumbled through the great hall doors. Ronan reached him first. The scout dropped to one knee, breathing hard. We were seen near the eastern boundary. Mara stopped. Ronan's face emptied. By whom? Vale riders. They followed the contact trail. The scout swallowed. Hale is gone. Mara's hands went cold. And the records? Darken. Ronan looked at her. For the first time since invoking Crown Safeguard, he had no command left to give. Mara did not need one. She already knew exactly what Gideon would do next. The news came before sunrise. No messenger was needed this time. Gideon had made certain the entire border heard. A Vale rider arrived under a white flag, carrying a single sheet of parchment stamped with the Alpha seal. Alaric read it once, then handed it to Ronan without a word. Mara was already standing in the great hall. She knew from their faces. What did he do? Ronan did not answer quickly enough. Mara took the parchment from his hand. Captain Aemon Hale had been executed at dawn for treason against the acting Alpha of Vale. The original succession ledger, seized in his possession, had been burned in the courtyard as proof that false claims against Gideon would not be tolerated. The pharmacy authorization pages had been destroyed with it. At the bottom, Gideon had added one final line. Any wolf who aids Mara Vale will share Hale's sentence. The letters blurred. Aemon had kept those records for 5 years. He had hidden them through purges, raids, and Gideon's growing suspicion. He had survived until the moment Ronan's soldiers appeared near him. Mara folded the parchment carefully. Too carefully. Ronan stepped toward her. Mara. She looked up. I told you. His face tightened. I know. No. You know now. Mara. I told you exactly what would happen. Ronan absorbed the words without moving. I believed my men could reach him first. You believed your judgment mattered more than mine. I was trying to keep you alive, and Aemon is dead. Silence filled the hall. Alaric and Hester both moved toward the doors. Ronan stopped them with a glance, but Mara spoke first. Stay. Ronan frowned. I want witnesses. Something changed in his expression. Mara stepped closer. My brothers controlled what I ate, where I went, what I was allowed to know. Every time I fought them, they said the same thing, that they knew what was best for me. Do not compare me to them, then stop making me live the comparison. The words landed harder than a shout. Ronan's eyes dropped for the first time. Mara held out her hand. End the safeguard. It is already. Say it. Ronan looked at Alaric. Crown safeguard is rescinded. Effective immediately. No guard is to prevent Mara Vale from leaving Calder Keep. No correspondence addressed to her is to be intercepted or screened. Alaric bowed. Yes, my king. Mara turned away. I am sorry, Ronan said. She stopped but did not face him. Undoing the order does not resurrect him. I know. And apologizing does not restore the ledger. I know. Her throat burned. She hated that he sounded as though he meant it. Anger would have been easier if he defended himself. A violent cramp tore through her spine. Mada gaspeth. The parchment slipped from her fingers. Hester moved first. Mara? Another wave hit. This one drove her to her knees. Heat exploded beneath her skin. Bones shifted. Not breaking, changing. Her hearing flooded with sound. The fire snapping 20 feet away. Hester's pulse accelerating. Guards running in the corridor. Ronan's heartbeat suddenly hammering harder than all of them. Mara, listen to me, Hester said. Do not fight the shift. A voice rose inside her. Not words. A presence. Furious. Terrified. Alive. Herr Wolf, Mara screamed. Silver-white fur burst across her arms. Her hands struck the stone and became paws. The room stretched upward as her body expanded, muscles reforming beneath skin and fur, until a massive pale wolf stood where Mara had fallen. The world became scent and noise. Steel, smoke, fear. Ronan. His scent hit hardest. Protection. Command. Cage. The wolf lunged. Alaric reached for his sword. Don't, Ronan snapped. Mara's claws scraped stone as she stopped several feet from him, teeth bared. Ronan's eyes flashed gold. Power filled the hall. Mara felt it immediately, alpha command gathering behind his voice, strong enough to crush instinct beneath obedience. Her wolf recoiled. Ronan opened his mouth, then stopped. The pressure vanished. Slowly, deliberately, he removed the sword from his belt and placed it on the floor. Then he lowered himself to one knee. No command, no order, no attempt to touch her. Mara, he said quietly. You decide. Her wolf paced once, twice. Every instinct demanded escape, attack, motion, but no invisible force pushed her down. No one chose for her. Mara focused on Hester's voice, then on her own heartbeat. She found the human part of herself beneath the fury and held on. The transformation back hurt worse. When it ended, she was curled on the stone, shaking beneath a cloak Hester had thrown around her. Ronan remained where he was. Mara looked at him. She understood what he had just chosen not to do. That did not make Aemon less dead. Do not mistake this for forgiveness, she whispered. I won't. Hester knelt beside Mara and checked her pulse, eyes widening with cautious relief. The suppressant level is nearly below the dangerous threshold, she said, and your wolf returned to you without tearing the two halves apart. Mara closed her eyes. Does that mean I can open the red door? No. Hester's answer was immediate. You survived manifestation. That gives us the second condition. But we still do not understand how the 7 seals release, or what order the oath key requires. Mara opened her eyes again. Across the hall, Ronan was still kneeling beside the sword he had chosen not to use. One correct choice, after one unforgivable one. For now, that was all it was. Ronan summoned the Council of 12 Packs the next morning. 12 carved seats formed a half-circle beneath the black and silver banner of the Northern Crown. 8 Alpha Seals rested on the table before Ronan the support that gave him full war authority across the Northern Territories. Mara stood beside Hester and Alaric, still weak from her first shift, but steady. She had expected Ronan to argue privately for damage control. Instead, he stood before every Alpha and said, "I invoked Crown safeguard against Mara Vale's stated judgment." The chamber went quiet. He did not soften it. She warned me that sending Calder soldiers toward Captain Eamon Hale would expose him. I believed I could control the risk. I was wrong. My order led Gideon Vale to Hale. Hale was executed. The original succession ledger and pharmacy authorization pages were destroyed. One of the Alphas leaned back. "You are blaming yourself for Gideon's execution. I am naming the consequence of my decision." Another said, "And what does the Crown intend to do now? March on Vale?" "No." Ronan placed his hand on the stone table. "The Crown will not intervene militarily in the Vale succession dispute. I will not use Crown soldiers, Alpha Command, or royal authority to determine its outcome. If I violate that declaration, this council may open a Crown challenge against me." Murmurs broke across the chamber. Alpha Corvin of Frostmere removed his seal first. "If the Crown will not defend its own interests because of one woman, you do not have mine." A second seal followed from Westmark. 8 became 6. Without 7, Ronan could no longer compel Allied military support or issue a full Northern War mandate. When the council dispersed, Mara remained near the window. Ronan approached but stopped several feet away. "I know this does not fix it." "No," she said. "It doesn't. I know." He left before she had to tell him to. That mattered. It was not forgiveness. Over the next 2 days, Mara worked through the records with Hester and Alaric. Eamon's ledger was gone. Nothing replaced it. But another pattern emerged. The 7-line geometry on Mara's oath key matched symbols hidden in old Crown shipping codes. The merchant numbers attached to Vale's tonic shipments traced back to authorizations issued through the office of the Keeper of Oaths. Lord Cassian Vane. Ronan stared at the name for a long time. Cassian had advised Ronan's father and taught Ronan oath law as a boy. Ronan still ordered his office sealed. Inside a locked lower chamber, Alaric found banned threshold manuals, lists of wolves placed under coercive bonds, and fragments of correspondence carrying Gideon's private mark. One manual contained the same 7-seal red threshold architecture used on Mara, annotated with Cassian's private authorization cipher. A surviving fragment from Gideon referred to the Vale heir and requested continued suppression materials. The chain was incomplete, but its meaning was no longer vague. Cassian's threshold network had supplied the structure used to imprison Mara's wolf. None of it restored Mara's destroyed succession case. Hester found something else in the manuals. "The seals are not released all at once," she told Mara. "The key has to follow the same sequence in which the threshold was built." She laid the 7 symbols beside the marks on the pendant. Scent, healing, instinct, aura, voice, blood memory, manifestation. Your mother did not leave you, only a key. She preserved the order. Mara touched the brass. "So now we know the mechanism. And your blood is below the dangerous suppressant threshold," Hester said. "Your first shift reintegrated successfully. Biologically, all 3 conditions are now possible. Possible is not the same as safe." "No." Mara appreciated the answer. Cassian disappeared before he could be arrested. Ronan did not send an army after him. Mara made her decision that evening. I'm returning to Vale. Ronan's expression tightened, but he only asked, "What do you need?" 12 people have asked to come with me. They are crowned soldiers. Some are. Then they cannot go under my command. I know. The volunteers assembled in the lower courtyard at dawn. 7 active soldiers signed temporary releases from Crown service. The other 5 were 2 scouts, a healer's assistant, a former border ranger, and 1 Calder wolf who had seen Cassian's records. No banner was raised, no crown pay was issued. Ronan gave them no orders. Mara spoke to each one herself and rejected 3 before choosing the final 12. One veteran named Tomas fastened a plain traveling cloak over his shoulders. "We are not going for the crown," he told her. "Then why are you going?" "Because you should not have to walk back into that place alone." Mara accepted that answer. Ronan waited beside the gate. He looked as though every instinct in him wanted to change the plan. He did not. "What do you need from me?" he asked again. Mara met his eyes. "Come to the Vale border if you must. But when the trial begins, you stay outside." His jaw tightened. "No soldiers, no command, no crossing the boundary because you think I need saving." A long silence. Then, Ronan nodded. "I will stay outside." Mara mounted her horse. 3 days earlier, she would not have believed him. Now she believed he meant it. Whether he could keep the promise when it hurt was a different question. She turned toward the road to Vale. It was time to find out. Mara returned to Vale, keep through the same eastern gate she had left as treaty payment. This time there was no white ribbon around her wrist. No Calder banner moved above the 12 riders behind her. Their cloaks were plain, their weapons their own, and Ronan rode several lengths farther back with only Alaric beside him. At the stone markers that defined Vale's trial ground, the Alpha King stopped. Mara did not look back until she had crossed the boundary. He remained outside. The courtyard was crowded again. Gideon had summoned the pack deliberately, just as he had when he sold her. Elders lined the raised platform. Warriors filled the walls. Families packed the lower yard. Silas stood at Gideon's right hand with a silver-hilted blade at his belt. Gideon smiled when Mara approached. 12, he called. "That is all the Black Wolf King gave you?" Mara stopped beneath the platform. "I didn't come here to borrow his throne." The smile thinned. Mara drew the old Vale law tablet from her satchel and placed it on the witness stone. "As firstborn blood heir of Alpha Thomas Vale, I invoke the trial of 3 oaths." The courtyard changed. Even Gideon stopped smiling. An elder stepped forward. "State the charges. Theft, blood, choice." If Mara proved 2, Gideon's claim to the Alpha seat would fall. If she failed 2, the law would recognize him. The first oath began. Mara presented merchant receipts showing payments made to 3 council families in the months surrounding her father's death. Grain ledgers showed resources moved from winter stores into accounts Gideon controlled. Tax fragments showed unexplained transfers immediately before the council confirmed him as acting Alpha. Gideon answered every piece. The grain was moved because the eastern farms failed. An elder checked the date. Possible. The payments were stipends for emergency council service. Also possible. The merchant irregularities began during border disruption. Half our books from that year are incomplete. Also true. Mara called 2 former servants who remembered sealed payments leaving Gideon's study. Neither had seen what was inside. She laid down everything she had. It was not enough. The presiding elder looked genuinely troubled. "There is evidence of misconduct and reason for grave suspicion. But the first oath requires proof that succession itself was deliberately stolen." Mara already knew the next words. "That standard has not been met." A murmur moved through the crowd. Gideon had 1 oath. Mara. Head on. Her eyes found Ronan beyond the boundary. He stood motionless. If Aemon had been alive, the original succession ledger would have connected the payments, council votes, and authorization dates. Ronan knew it. He did not look away. Mara turned back. Second oath. Blood. Hester stepped onto the trial ground as an independent healer and presented Mara's toxin analysis. Years of suppressant residue remained traceable in bone and blood. Damaged pharmacy accounts showed the same compound entering Vale Keep month after month. Gideon shrugged. She was sickly from childhood. We gave her medicine. Medicine that suppressed manifestation, Mara said. We did not know that. A former kitchen maid testified that Mara's tonic changed from once daily to twice daily after the winter solstice when Mara was 14. Gideon's counsel challenged her memory. 14 years of servants, winters, illnesses, why should anyone trust the date? Mara expected that. She produced the damaged apothecary account, recovered at Calder Keep. The shipment volume had almost doubled immediately after that solstice. Still, no signature survived. Gideon spread his hands. Our healer increased the dosage. My sister was ill. Mara looked at him. You did not manage her medicine? No. You never ordered the dosage? No. You did not know why it was increased? I trusted the healer. Mara let the silence sit. Then she asked, do you remember what happened before that solstice? A fever. Only a fever. I was 21, Mara. I had better things to remember. Another witness stepped forward, an elderly servant named Nessa. She broke the oak table, Nessa said. Not with a tool, with her fingers. Her eyes went silver. Gideon's expression barely changed. A frightened servant's story. Mara nodded. My mother argued with you afterward. Mother argued with everyone. She said twice a day would destroy me. That proves nothing. No. It proves she was afraid. Mara picked up the damaged account. And this as the shipment increased before the solstice episode. Gideon's irritation flashed. After, the courtyard went silent. Mara did not move. Gideon realized it a heartbeat too late. She asked quietly, after what? His jaw locked. You just called it a fever. No answer. You said you did not manage the medicine. Still nothing. Mara stepped closer to the witness stone. If you did not know why the dosage changed, how do you know it was doubled after I began showing signs? Silas swore under his breath. Gideon turned toward him too quickly. That was enough for Nessa to speak again. He ordered her room locked that night. I heard him tell the old healer she was not to miss another dose. Gideon snapped. You lie. Nessa flinched but held her ground. The elders withdrew. Mara's hands were cold despite the sun. When they returned, the presiding elder spoke. The evidence establishes that Gideon Vale knew the tonic suppressed signs of manifestation and continued the increased regimen. He struck the witness stone once. Second oath to Mara Vale. 1-1. Everything now rested on choice. The entire pack was ordered into the courtyard. Mara stood before people who had watched her be sold. Some looked ashamed. Some frightened. Some still wore Gideon's colors. She did not ask them to kneel. Stand with the Alpha you choose. No one moved. Mara waited. Nothing. A young warrior near the well trembled so violently his teeth clicked, but his knees remained pressed to the stone. An older woman tried to rise. Her body jerked downward as though invisible hands had seized her shoulders. Mara's blood went cold. Gideon began to smile. They have chosen. No, Mara whispered. She could feel it now. Not loyalty. Pressure. A web running beneath the courtyard, through every bowed wolf, and somehow back into her own blood. The brass key beneath Mara's shirt turned hot. A bell sounded inside her skull. Deep. Ancien. 1. Mara stopped breathing. A second bell followed. Then a third. Somewhere behind her eyes, the flooded stone corridor returned, and at its end waited the red door. The third bell rolled through Mara's skull, then the fourth. The courtyard vanished. She stood ankle-deep in black water beneath dripping stone. The red door waited at the end of the corridor, exactly as it had since she was 8. 7 marks glowed around its frame, but this time Mara understood what she was seeing. Not a prophecy. A structure. The same structure Hester had shown her in the condemned oath manual. Behind her, somewhere far away, Gideon's voice echoed through the courtyard. They chose me. Mara reached for the brass key at her throat. The metal burned against her fingers. A thread of power stretched from the door through her body and outward. She could feel hundreds of thin, painful lines branching from the same source. Vale wolves. The realization came whole. Gideon had never possessed enough true alpha spark to bind the pack himself. Cassian had given him another way. Mara's blood, their father's alpha seal, and the architecture of the red threshold. They had used Mara's suppressed power as the anchor. Her prison had become their chain. Her wolf moved within her mind, no longer distant. Awake, furious, waiting. Mara remembered Hester's rule. An unbound could break several coercive bonds together only when they shared one magical anchor. These did. Nothing beyond the Vale lattice would fall. No neighboring pack, no voluntary oath, no promise freely made. Only the bonds tied to her threshold. The fifth bell sounded. Then Elena's voice came from memory. Don't open the red door. Mara closed her eyes. At 8, her blood had been saturated with suppressant. At 14, 3 missed doses had nearly forced an unstable shift. Even days ago, opening all 7 seals could have flooded a poisoned body with more power than it could survive. Elena had been right. Mara touched her pulse. Steady. The suppressant was below Hester's danger threshold. Her wolf had manifested and returned. Human and wolf had reintegrated, and Mara understood the order. Scent, healing, Aztec, aura, voice, blood memory, manifestation. Not then. Mara whispered. The 6th bell rang. Her wolf answered inside her. Ready. Mara opened her eyes. Now, she pushed the oath key into the lock. The first mark shattered. Scent rushed through her. The second broke, and healing heat moved through old weakness. Third, instinct settled into her bones. Fourth, her alpha aura unfolded. Fifth, her wolf's voice became clear. I am here. Sixth, memory struck. Elena fastening the key around her neck. Gideon watching after solstice, while another dose was forced between Mara's lips. Then the 7th bell rang. Mara turned the key. The red door opened. There was no endless wave of power. The corridor split into white light, and the lattice attached to it snapped. Mara opened her eyes in the Vale courtyard. Around her, wolves gasped. The pressure holding them down disappeared. A young warrior near the well lurched upright. An old woman collapsed forward, sobbing. Several others simply stared at their own hands as if they had forgotten what unforced movement felt like. Mara sensed the difference at once. The bonds were gone, but affection, resentment, fear, and habit remained. Whatever each wolf chose next would belong to that wolf alone. Gideon staggered. What did you do? Mara could still feel the pack, but there were no chains. Nothing to their loyalty, she said. I gave them back the right to decide. Silence followed. For one terrible moment, no one moved toward her. Freedom was not allegiance. A warrior stood beside Gideon. Then another. Mara led them. A woman near the well stepped toward Mara. Nessa followed. Then 3 younger wolves. Then 20. The movement spread through the courtyard in uneven waves. Some crossed to Mara quickly. Others stood between the 2 sides, uncertain. A handful remained beside Gideon, even though nothing compelled them now. Mara did not call them traitors. Freedom had to mean their choice counted even when she hated it. At last, enough came. The presiding elder counted, then struck the witness stone. By free choice of the Vale pack, the 3rd oath belongs to Mara Vale. 1 to Gideon, Tfoto Mara. The alpha seat was hers. Silas screamed. He drew the silver blade from his belt and rushed her. Mara heard Ronan move beyond the boundary. For an instant she expected him to cross. He did not. Silas slashed. Mara shifted just enough for claws to break through her fingertips. She caught his wrist, turned beneath the strike, and drove him to the stones. The silver blade skidded away. Silas reached for it. Mara pressed one clawed hand to his throat. "Don't." He froze. Guards who had chosen Mara seized him and dragged him away. Only then did she look beyond the boundary. Ronan stood exactly where she had left him, fists clenched. "You stayed outside," Mara said. "You asked me to. You wanted to come in." "Yes." Ronan looked at Silas, then back at her. "But wanting something doesn't give me the right." Something inside Mara shifted. Not forgiveness. Not yet. But trust, perhaps, had stopped moving backward. Gideon stood beneath the platform, his face bloodless. Mara approached him. "You spent 15 years choosing my life for me." She removed the alpha clasp from his coat. "You do not get to choose how this ends either." She turned to the elders. "Strip his title. Hold him for judgment under Vale law." For the first time, Gideon obeyed, because the pack no longer had to. By sunset, the Vale crest flew above the courtyard again. This time it belonged to Mara. A rider arrived before the gates closed. Northern colors. He crossed directly to Ronan. "My king, the council has been summoned." "By whom?" "Lord Cassian Vane." The messenger swallowed. "With only 6 seals standing behind you, he has invoked a crown challenge." Cassian Vane expected fear to win the room before evidence ever had a chance. When Mara entered the Northern Council chamber beside Ronan, 6 alpha seals remained on the black stone table. Cassian stood opposite them beneath the carved wolves of the old crown, composed in dark ceremonial robes. "The king has surrendered military authority for the sake of his mate," Cassian said. "And now that mate possesses a bloodline capable of breaking every oath in the north." Mara stepped forward. "No. I can break coercive bonds under specific conditions." Vale's lattice collapsed because Gideon attached those bonds to the same magical anchor as my red threshold. She placed the oath key on the table. "A voluntary oath has no such anchor." One of the undecided alphas renewed a pack pledge with his second allowed. Nothing happened. Cassian's mouth tightened. Then Alaric laid out the proof chain already gathered. The 7-line geometry on Mara's key matched the red threshold diagram seized from Cassian's chamber. Vale suppressant shipments carried merchant codes routed through his office. Crown authorization ciphers matched his private seal. Surviving correspondence linked those shipments to Gideon. Vale trial testimony established what the tonic had done, and the hidden chamber contained records of other coercive bindings. No single document proved everything. Together, they did. "This is fabrication," Cassian said. Ronan's voice was quiet. "Then explain why your authorization cipher appears on banned threshold shipments." Cassian looked toward the guards. 3 moved. Not toward Ronan, toward Mara. Their faces twisted. One guard fought his own arm as it reached for his sword. "No," he gasped. "I don't want this." The second dug his heels into the floor, trembling. "Stop him." The third choked out. "Break it." Mara felt 3 separate coercive seals, close enough to reach and actively resisted by the wolves bound inside them. She broke the first oath. The guard collapsed, gasping. Then the second. Then the third. Cassian ran. He made it 4 steps before Ronan caught him. There was no second battle. Council guards closed in while Ronan forced Cassian to the stone. By sunset, Cassian had been stripped of office and placed under arrest. Threshold Circle records were seized for prosecution across the northern packs. The Crown challenge failed, but Ronan did not walk away untouched. 2 seals returned after the evidence was reviewed. 6 became 8, enough to govern, not enough to pretend nothing had happened. Before Mara left, Ronan signed the recognition decree placing Vale succession and internal law beyond Crown interference. There was no romantic condition attached. Mara returned to Vale the next morning. Ronan did not ask her to stay. 3 months passed. Mara rebuilt the council first. Seats once inherited by old families were opened to representatives chosen by villages and border settlements. Forced blood oaths were banned. Gideon was tried. stripped permanently of title and property, and sentenced under Vale law. The new public archive was harder. Mara named it Amon Hall of Record. Every succession document, council vote, tax order, and medical authorization would now exist in multiple sealed copies held in separate locations. No Alpha would ever again erase a truth by killing the person who guarded it. Ronan came to the dedication because Mara invited him. He stood with the crowd and did not speak. Afterward, beneath the stone arch bearing Amon's name, Ronan said, "He deserved better. Yes, from me too." There was no defense attached. "Yes," Mara said again. He accepted that. Then he went home. Their letters began formally. Border tariffs, winter grain, river access. A month later, Ronan proposed a trade ratio Mara considered absurd. She sent back 3 pages explaining why. His reply arrived 4 days later. "You are irritatingly correct." She laughed before she could stop herself. When a dispute broke out near Vale's northern ridge, Ronan did not send troops. He sent one message. "Do you want assistance?" Mara answered, "No." His reply contained one word, "Understood." No soldiers appeared. By the second month, their letters carried personal observations between political arguments. By the third, they sounded like 2 people who knew when the other would challenge, soften, or laugh. Ronan never asked when she was coming back. Mara noticed that too. One cold morning after a council meeting, she remained alone with the brass key resting against her throat. Vale was hers, because she had fought for it, and her people had chosen her. She could stay there for the rest of her life. She could build something good, without Ronan. That realization no longer hurt. That was how Mara knew she was ready. 3 days later, she rode through the gates of Calder Keep alone. No treaty ribbon circled her wrist. No escort surrounded her. The Vale Alpha crest rested at her shoulder. The courtyard filled as people recognized her, but no one approached before Ronan came down the steps. He stopped several feet away. He did not touch her. "Is this a diplomatic visit?" Mara dismounted. It started that way. A hint of a smile touched his mouth. His gaze dropped to the brass key. "What does it open now?" "Nothing. The lock is gone." For a moment, neither spoke. Then Mara said, "For most of my life, staying somewhere meant I wasn't allowed to leave." Ronan remained silent. "After Vale, I needed to know I could build a life without you." "You can." "I know." The answer came easily now. "And I needed to know you could let me." Ronan took a slow breath. "I had to learn how." "You did." Mara stepped toward him. For the first time since Amon died, she reached for Ronan because she wanted to. Her fingers closed around his hand. "So, I'm here because I want to be." Ronan looked down at their joined hands, then back at her. "What do you want this to become?" Months ago, he would have answered that question himself. Mara smiled. "Something we choose more than once." Then Mara kissed him. It was not a treaty, a command, a debt, or fate collecting what it was owed. It was the first kiss she had ever given him, and it belonged entirely to her. For Mara Vale, that made all the difference.